In this video, I'll be covering how to make the backbone to my modular system, dungeon rails. I'll be covering the pros, cons, and why I made this system at the end of the video, but for now, you should know that if you're trying to follow along with this project at home, links to the project overview will be found in the description. Dungeon rails are durable magnetic rails crafted from strong magnets, plastic card, also known as polystyrene sheets, and super glue. For this video, I sourced plastic card from 2 locations, and while the smaller sheets are actually the more expensive, the 12x12 sheets performed slightly better. In the end, I don't think it matters where you source your materials from. The plastic card I'm using is 0.06 thickness, which is tough and somewhat hard to work with. And while you can craft these solely by hand, I do recommend the use of a smart cutting machine, a Cricut Maker or Silhouette. You're gonna notice that I end up still cutting these out by hand in the end. But having those perfectly drawn shapes done by the Cricut and those channels to follow makes it a whole lot easier. The Cricut setting I used was heavy chipboard, but I intentionally stopped it after 6 passes. That number of passes is enough for the Cricut to make a nice deep groove for you to follow without putting all the strain of cutting through the plastic card on the machine. There is a method to my madness here, guys. Now, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of why I chose to do it this way, but have faith, I've made a few of these. Last tip that I want to give on cutting the plastic card is to go in multiple lighter passes and to not press hard and try to make it happen all in one pass. You'll be happier with your results. After I have everything cut, I'm going to save all my scraps. The larger scraps I'm going to put in a bin, and the small pieces I'm going to turn into that plastic gum by dumping it into a jar of acetone. And before we put together the rails, I'm going to give everything, magnets and plastic card, a light sanding. Make sure to remember to place all of your magnets in the same orientation. The distribution of the magnets will go as follows: 1 large, 1 small for a 1-inch corner, 2 large, 1 small for a 2-inch corner, 1 large with the center broken out of it for a 2-inch rail, 1 large, 1 small for a 3-inch, 1 large, 3 small for a 4-inch, 2 large in the center from the 2-inch for that 6-inch rail, and 3 large with some filler plastic for an 8-inch rail. And lastly, 3 large for a 2-inch intersection. Now, for many of the rails, I decided to break the large magnet. And I would tell you guys not to be afraid to do this. Magnets are actually quite brittle and they're easy to break. Simply grab them with a pair of pliers and then rock the ends back and forth with increasing pressure. One more point I'd like to mention: before adding the top plate to your rails, go ahead and give it a quick sanding. This is gonna make sure that the top plate sits flush on the magnet, and it's gonna give you the nicest finish. And after the rails are completed, I'm gonna sand them one last time to smooth out all the edges and get rid of any sharp parts. So that's the secret to crafting the dungeon rails. Now I'd like to take a moment to talk to you guys about the why and pros and cons to this system. So why design a new system? Why not just use an established tile system? And for this question, I have a couple of different reasons. The first main reason is that I wanted to build a modular system that could grow with me. What I mean by that is that if I decide to build city walls now, and then a year from now I decide I hate how these city walls look, I don't want to be stuck in the shoe that I've been stuck in before, where it's like, do I rip all the magnets out of my old city walls? Do I leave them? Do I just keep it? I really don't like them anymore, but fuck. This system separates the magnets and makes the magnets the most modular part of the system. And while that does add an additional step, it also allows me to grow organically as a crafter while not having to constantly feel like the things I committed magnets to before are now a waste of money. I believe that having diversity is an incredible strength. There's so many talented crafters already pushing forward the tile system, but it's not the only way. And I honestly believe by exploring a different way and showing you guys that there's multiple ways to skin a cat, maybe you'll think of even your own way you want to build a modular system. And the more of us that have more ideas, the more the community grows, the more we can build on these ideas, and the better all of us become. Before I turn the floor over to you guys and ask you all what you think, I'd like to talk about the 2 main flaws that I've seen with this system. The first main flaw we've sort of already touched on, which is that you're not gonna have something to hit the table the day you make these, and you're gonna have high upfront costs. And the second main flaw would be easier to show you than it is to describe. This flaw is that you need to build your magnetic footprints with an even number of magnets. As you can see here, if you use an odd number of magnets, they won't want to connect to each other. But this flaw can easily be overcome by having a diverse number of rails and applying basic math when you make your setups. I'd like to say thanks to all my amazing patrons, especially Michael, who pledges at the shop foreman level. I really appreciate your support. Thank you. If you got something from this video, please consider hitting like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. YouTube will let you know when dinner's ready that way. And now, I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this way of building terrain? Is it hot garbage? Is it sweet swag? I'm really interested in what you think, so leave it down below. And until next time, keep all your fantasy fantastic.